I think the very first thing that I must state is that you have to be passionate about it. It takes you being hungry to pursue that which you're really passionate about. In my case, it was just something that I knew that I was so gifted and I knew that there was so much more to my voice. I had to do something about it. If you recall, I said I was serving in an IT firm, but I was also taking a course at the Voiceover Academy. And from the minute I took that course, it was like a light bulb lit in my head, and I was like, no, whatever it takes, I'm going to do. It just takes that resolute determination to go hard in the direction of your dreams.
Hi, I'm Tolulope Kolade, Tcode, an African voiceover artist from Nigeria, and this is my podcast, Everything Voiceovers, the African Perspective Podcast, where I take you on a journey to discovering industry insights through expert interviews, practical tips, and personal anecdotes.
You can simply call this your go-to resource for all things voiceover related. Buckle up as we discover the art, craft, and business of voiceovers through a uniquely African lens on this episode. Enjoy!
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Everything Voiceovers podcast, the African Perspective. It's Tcode here again with another episode. And today I've got an amazing guest. But before I go into the amazing guest, I hope you all are enjoying the podcast so far. Like you know now, we're now on video. So not only that you can listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcast or AfriPods, but you can go to YouTube to see the podcast, see me, see my guests, and enjoy the conversation. So let's get back to the conversation. Today, I have an important guest. Like all of my guests are always important, but this dude has got a very unique voice. I mean, if I'm going to compare all of the voices that I've had on my podcast so far, his voice actually stands out, and you're going to know why in a moment. He's a Nigerian voice talent, and he's actually a premium voice talent. He has done great gigs. We'll be going into the gigs that he has done in a moment as well, but he specializes in short form narrations, documentaries, and commercial. He's also a customer service executive, but he is, most importantly for this discussion, a premium voice talent. I'm talking about no other person than the amazing, okay, I want to call his real name first, Wale Bamidele. Now, when I say Wale Bamidele, a lot of you can't relate, right? But when I say Wale Bams, now that rings a bell, doesn't it? So, ladies and gentlemen, my guest, Wale Bams. Hi, Wale, how you doing, man?
Hello, Tcode. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. You're welcome. It's my pleasure to have you. Since
Yeah.
sort of like last year, you were just like everywhere. I started seeing Wale Bams here, Wale Bams there, and I was like, I need to get this dude on the podcast. We need to talk about his great voice, very charming voice, but not just that. We need to talk about how you land some of these gigs. Yeah, so it's great having you here, man. It's really nice having you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure's
Yeah.
all mine.
Yeah, so let me start with a very, very basic question, right? Who
Okay.
is Wale Bams? I know you, voiceover artist, all of that,
Yes.
but who is Wale
Yes.
Bams, the guy behind
Okay.
the voice?
So who is Wale Bams? Wale Bams. My full name is Wale Bams, like you earlier introduced. And I'm the first of two children. Go the convention. I'm the first of two children born to Mr. and Mrs. Bamidele, someone who, upon puberty, discovered that he had a unique voice. Up until 2000, did not fully know the potential of his voice until 2019. So that was the year that opened my eyes to many possibilities of what I could do with my voice. And then I've gone aggressively in that direction. Here we are today.
Hmm.
So thank you very much. That's who
You-
Wale Bams is.
You're welcome. When you're talking about how since 2019 you began to realize the potential of your voice? In my head, I'm like, especially when you said from puberty, you began to see that there's something unique about your voice. I was like, did this voice actually tell us? I know there should be a story somewhere about how this voice had done something. I'm not insinuating anything, but I know when you look at the voice versus the female gender.
know where this is going. I know where this is going, but it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what's the
Okay. So, I will be real, right? You know, when you're growing up and puberty happens, you start to break out, certain things start to happen to your body, you feel your voice gets deeper and whatnot. I would hear my mom, I remember when my voice started changing and my mom was like, this boy of yesterday is starting to sound like this. You get, but I didn't really take it serious. I think the very first day that I had the self-awareness of the power of my voice, it was a very funny scenario, right? So I was talking to this female friend of mine. I know, I know that's what you want to hear. So
Yeah.
we had this jam lessons that we usually would go for. And so I think we were talking over the phone about how we were going to go. Mid conversation on WhatsApp. I think WhatsApp had just come into being around that time. So I
Mm.
sent a voice note and she was so enthralled by my voice that in about 5, 10 minutes, she came over to the house and I was like, what is it that it was just, she went on and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I think there's something here. Because
Yeah.
but it was just so unusual. So from that moment, I was like, okay, I think there's something here, something that's
Yeah.
captivating. Yeah, but
Yeah.
since then, I've just been, oh, there has to be something about this voice.
About your
So, and then,
voice.
and then would realize that going into school, although from my secondary school days, I realized whenever we were required to read or read anything or speak of anything, if I were to raise my hand in class, I noticed that people always listened. Like whenever
Mm.
I opened my mouth to speak, everyone would just be silent. So I knew that
Mm.
I had something, but I didn't fully grasp what it was up
Mm.
until I knew that I had a great voice, but I didn't know how I could harness this voice to use it for
Yeah.
something amazing up until 20 when I fully
Yeah.
went out. Yeah. So that was
And it's an interesting story, and I can also relate when you send a lady a voice note. Now, for guys listening, if you have, I mean, of course, you have a great voice, but sending ladies voice notes early in the morning or late at night, that thing can do
it.
something.
Works wonders.
All right, so let's leave all the guy talk.
Mhm.
One of the things, exactly the reason why we're here is because you're a voiceover artist, and you and I know more than anything else that you're not a voiceover artist, a thriving voiceover artist, just because you have a great voice. Because
True,
there are certainly people who have great voices as well. And that
true.
is, I'm also trying to make it very obvious so that people will, some people will hear your voice and they will feel intimidated. Like, gosh, if he has that kind of voice, what hope do I have?
Yes,
Voice is a part of it, but the voice is just one of the many things that we need to do. So
true.
I believe that in your journey, discovering that there's something unique and you can, let's start from how you were able to realize that you could make money from your voice doing voiceovers. Because your 9 to 5 seems to make use of your voice, right? So
Very much.
tell me about how you've been making money from your voice before voiceover, perhaps through your 9 to 5, and then crossing over to voiceover and doing both simultaneously. How did that happen?
Okay. So before 9 to 5, what happened was, like I said, I didn't really fully discover the power of my voice up until 2019, actually 2018, right? Because I finished school, I went to University of Ilorin, I finished in 2018. Now, upon my final year, in your final year of school, you're always doing this final year reflections, and then you just reflect on your time in school and what life ahead would look like. And I was having a conversation with my friends, and they made mention how much of a captivating voice I had, how well I would do in media, and I really agreed with them. So, because I studied statistics, but it wasn't something that I felt that I would feel fulfilled doing. So I really needed to have that conversation with them. That conversation was such an eye opener. I needed something I needed some kind of external validation to validate that which I've been feeling on the inside. So when they mentioned the whole media thing to me, it was like there was a light bulb in my head. And then but I was like, oh, I could have started chasing this thing all along, but now I'm at 400 level. I'm almost done. Anyway, looking ahead, what can I do? So I made up my mind I was going to go aggressively in the direction of get into after school. Obviously, you're getting to service year. So my plan was
Yeah.
get into OBS, do all that you
Yeah.
can to get into OBS. So I
Yeah.
served in Lagos. I fought my way into OBS because there was this notion that if you work in the OBS, you'll be able to serve in a radio station
Yeah.
or a media house. Do you get?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that was not the case. I fought my way into the OBS. I served all through my camp, and when it was time for posting, they posted me to one school in my 12 in Lagos. I was so pissed. I was so pissed. It was like my dreams had dashed. I was so pissed. I still tried as much as possible to get into media houses, STV, TVC, did my very best, and it just wasn't forthcoming. So I had to settle for an IT role, in an IT firm in Surulere. So that's why I did my service year, and I was just working. I never really used my voice, but interestingly, while I was in my service year, even in that IT firm, what I now did was I had a friend that we got acquainted during my service year. Her name is Daphne, and she has a wonderful voice as well. And then she was telling me about how her boss told her how she has such an amazing voice, how she should be doing voiceovers with her voice, and then pointed her in the direction of a voiceover academy. And so we both had plans as friends to go together to the voiceover academy to learn, see what we could do with our voices, and you know, from there we would, we'll see where that goes. Before then, before then, I knew I had a great voice, and shortly before my graduation, I started doing short podcasts, if you will, because I didn't have
Yeah.
full knowledge of podcasts then. I'll just have my
Yeah.
phone on early morning because I would always go to the gym early in the morning. So I just have conversations with my friends on WhatsApp, and people loved it and they always chimed in. And then I now found out about Anchor. So I had this podcast on Anchor called The Gist with Wale Bams,
With Wale
right?
Bams.
I was recording
Yeah.
strictly with just my phone at that time, and
Mhm.
people loved it. And that was before I then found out about the VoiceOver Academy. I did my training in, I think, July or August of 2019. And then I fully realized, then I learned every single thing about voiceovers, how vast it is, how much I could do with my voice. I was profiled. And then from there, I was like, I was like, I found my purpose, man. I was like, from then on, I was like, I'm going all in on this voiceover thing. So I really never truly made money from my voice before
The voiceover
before the voiceover academy training
academy.
and from that point on, I just zeroed in on it. I went in on it, and ever since then, it's been blissful. So that's been my
Blissful
testimony.
indeed. It
Yes.
is a testimony indeed. And for the context, because I know some people are listening, but they don't know what OBS is. It is Orientation Broadcasting Service. Is it broadcasting or broadcast? Whatever. But it's like a small department, rather, in NYSC. That's the National Youth Service Corps that all Nigerian graduates have to go through for a year. So we spent 3 weeks in the camp, and I was also a member of, or I also served with the OBS.
Mm-hmm.
And just like you, I was posted to a primary school or a secondary school to teach, but I insisted. I say I no agree. So I went, and I was fortunate enough to be posted to the broadcasting service of Ekiti State. This was in 20, and I enjoyed myself. I did mostly TV, but it was good. Anyways, let's get back to the conversation. It's about Wale Bams today, and I want us to talk about living a life as a voiceover artist and someone doing 9 to 5. I've said that like a million times now, 9 to 5. And that's because majority of people that I've brought on this podcast, they are majorly focused on voiceovers. Yeah, just 80% of people that I've brought here, or 90%, they're full timers, or that's what their work revolves around. But you are one of those who do voiceovers, do something else, and you're successful at voiceovers. Not many people are able to give that level of attention to voiceovers and prosper in it because we can say it's a saturated game. People are auditioning, and you need to be timely. You need to have great quality. You also need to be on top of your game. So, not that, I mean, you need to always sort of like be warmed up for the next audition. So
Sure.
if you're doing a 9 to 5, that takes a lot of your time, because a lot of people are listening to this podcast and that's their reality, and they're like, I can't juggle these things together. How have you been able to get it right?
Okay, so thank you very much for that question. It's a very good question. I think for me, I think the very first thing that I must state is that you have to be passionate about it. It takes you being hungry to pursue that which you're really passionate about. In my case, it was just something that I knew that I was so gifted, and I knew that there was so much more to my voice. I had to do something about it. If you recall, I said I was serving in an IT firm, but I was also taking a course at the Voiceover Academy. And from the minute I took that course, it was like a light bulb lit in my head, and I was like, no, whatever it takes, I'm going to do. It just takes that resolute determination to go hard in the direction of your dreams. It was like a light bulb was just lit in my head. I saw the great possibilities there were to my voice. So I wasn't saying obstacles at that point. All I was just saying was the possibilities. So every little time, the thing is, there will always be something that would be be wanting to drag our attention. Do you get? If it's not work, it's something else. But you will always find time for those things that you love and that truly set your heart on fire. And for me, voiceovers and storytelling is one of those things. So regardless, I would always just make time. After my training, we were taught how vital it is for us to put out content. So whenever I had free time during the weekends, I would just whip something up, be it on InShot. If you go on my Instagram page, you see some of my old posts with terrible audio. I would not care. It was about, it was just about me putting out stuff, letting people know that, I'm passionate about this thing. I love this thing, and I just kept putting out content. And as God will have it, we all went on a global holiday known as COVID. And in that
Yeah.
COVID time, we had all the time in the world. There were TikTok challenges and whatnot, and that was when I went full on into it was as if God just directed my path to learn about voiceovers in 2019 to equip me for 2020. Because the minute 2020 came and we had all the time in the world, I was like, yes, it's go time. I have all the time in the world. I can just reach the world with my voice. And so in 2020 was the time I really honed in on things. I went out, I was posting online content, I was collaborating with my writer and videographer friends, constantly putting out content, which is one of the things I greatly advise for anybody that wants to take voiceover business seriously. Like you said, it's a very saturated market. One of the things that will set you apart is your hunger and the need. You have to always showcase yourself. It's called showbiz for a reason. If you don't show yourself, there's no business. Do you get? So you always have to, I always say it, hawk your market, carry it on your head, post your work, post it. If you don't have work to post, do TikTok challenges, flood your online space, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. Let everybody know that this guy is about voiceovers. When they think voiceovers, they think you.
Yeah.
That was my whole mentality in 2020. So I collaborated with my friends. I put lovely pieces inspiring people that everything was going to be fine, even if it wasn't. It wasn't looking like it was fine at that point. Do you get? But like
Yeah.
the message and the voice just really gave people hope, and people loved my content. Do you get? And it really just inspired me to want to do more. So for me, that was it. And I just believe that regardless of what it is you're doing, be it a 9 to 5, be it a business, if you feel like you have a gift and you feel like it's something you're passionate about, you will not see obstacles. You will just go hard after it. No matter what comes in your way, you're not seeing the obstacles. You're only seeing what's possible. So for me, I'm never seeing obstacles. When it comes to voice, once voiceovers call me, I'm like, let's go time for me. And I don't see obstacles. No matter what, I'm going to make it work. That's how I'm just wired. And that's how I feel like anybody that's serious, that's how they should take it, especially those in the 9 to 5 space. Once voiceovers call, trust me, as long as you don't see you're passionate about it, you will not see the obstacles. You will just keep going
Hmm.
in the direction of that which you love.
Wow. You know, it's already feeling motivational listening to Wale Bams with that voice talking
Yeah,
about it. You know, but as interesting and as nice as it sounds, we all know that it's not
it's not
easy,
easy, truly.
right? It
Yeah,
takes a lot of work. And that leads me to my next question because some people are listening to you say when voiceover calls, and it begins to feel like, how does voiceover call? How do you like? Is it do you have a special trick that makes voiceover come for you, or do you look for voiceovers? So already you know that that question is geared towards how you get your voiceover gigs.
sure.
So enlighten me what strategies, because honestly, see, in this situation, I'm not going to say there are no wrong answers or there are wrong answers, because the reality is some people, this formula works for them. They're kings of, say, pay to play sites. For some
Yes,
people, I mean, different styles work for different people.
yes.
So how have you been able to, find what works for you and what actually works for you?
Okay, so for me, I'll be honest. I've not been the luckiest with pay to play sites, although I'm registered on a
Mm,
couple of them. Not being the luckiest, but like I said, for me, what has really worked for me is number one, showcasing my work, talking my market. I'm always going to post. If it has my voice on it, I'm going to post it. I'm going to post about it. You will find it on my page. So you will never know who's watching. A lot of the
mm,
work that I have gotten is from people seeing stuff that I have done and then maybe bookmarked me in their head for a future project. And then when the time
yeah.
arises, they're like, oh, I know the perfect guy. So they just reach out based off of, in fact, for most of the work that I have done is based off of work that they have seen me do or because they have seen
Mm,
me consistently put out work, so whenever they think of work, they think of me in that direction. So for me, it's been about putting out my work as well as auditioning. Do you get? So whenever that's why I said when voiceover calls, whenever I see auditions, send my samples. I always send within my voiceover community, whenever we get any gigs or opportunities like that, sending my samples, just keep sending. Even when you don't book the auditions, some people just listen to your voice and know that guy is unique. You get somehow, some
yeah.
way, somebody will come back around and so it's just about you being ready to put in the work. That's the truth.
Mm,
For me, what has worked the most for me is putting out my work, intentionally putting out my work, posting my work on social media, carrying it on my head for
wow.
me most time.
Wow, that's inspiring. I need to do more. I think I'm
We all
trying
need
though.
to. I can
We
do
all need
better.
to do.
Yes.
I can do better too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been wanting to ask you this
Okay.
for the longest since the
Okay.
first day I saw it posted. I mean, I've seen you post some incredible works. I'm like, wow, this is a big deal. But the one that I cannot forget
Hmm.
ever is when Davido was gonna launch his comeback album, the Timeless album.
Yeah.
Was it a launch or was it when he went for a tour? I think it was a
No, it was the
launch on a
launch. It
tour.
was the launch of the album.
The launch.
Yeah, the launch of
Like
the album.
what else could be golden? I mean, for somebody who loves music, for me personally, that's a
Sure.
big deal.
Yes.
So I was like, how did you do that? How did you get selected? Did you audition? Did they reach out to you directly?
So,
What was the process like?
okay, so like I said, it goes back to what I had said earlier. It's about just continually showcasing yourself, the consistency of the craft, and then posting your work. So I would later find out that I got the Davido gig because an acquaintance who used to be a classmate to my roommate back in uni, he's been producing since our uni days. He's been a producer since our uni days. So
Hmm.
his team, his production company, was in charge of the production, the set production of the launch of Davido's album. And so when it came to who is going to do the voiceover, there was no other person in mind. It has to be Wale Bams. So I just got a call. In fact, it was as random as I think on that day I was actually going to fix myself breakfast. I went to get and I was on my way coming back home. I just got a call, and then they said, "Hello, uh, we on to Wale Bams." I said, "Yes, we would like to work with you on the project." Blah blah blah. And as a professional voiceover artist, you know that you do not seal deals on the phone. You get so I had them send me an email. I just thought, do me an email with the brief, blah blah blah. And then this email comes in, and I'm like, I was literally like, this what? No, no, no. I was speechless. Do you get? At that point, I didn't know how it was beyond me as to how I was the one they chose for that project. Then they
Chose.
just showed
Yeah.
me the storyboard, and of course, it had Davido's name on it, had the entire thing on it. I was surprised it doesn't even quantify how I felt in that moment. It was astonishing. One of the first people I hit up was Femi Bakes. Even Femi Bakes was surprised when I whoa, this is huge. Do you get? I was like, he was so surprised, and then it was humbling for me, right? So we just went
Yeah.
ahead, we negotiated. I got the project. In fact, I was so silent in that point. There's the Nigerian thing of you wanting to conceal your wins until
Before your village people.
exactly. I was very, very careful about making any announcements or anything. I was just hoping. In fact, I had no idea that Davido himself was going to post it. My whole idea was, okay, because I saw a Spotify, I was like, okay, maybe it's just something Spotify will just post randomly, or maybe just one ad on Spotify. And when it was time for them to post it was just one evening in traffic coming back from work. And then I was just scrolling on my Instagram, and the next thing, Davido posts this, and I'm like, the joy, trust me, the joy in my heart that evening.
My.
Trust me, it's crazy.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was
Wow.
crazy. It's crazy.
For context, I mean, this shouldn't be news to anyone, but Davido is one of the biggest Afrobeat
Afrobeat expert.
artists in Nigeria, in the world.
Yes.
Is I think is the most followed. Is it the most followed African? I think he's probably the most followed
I would
African or the
think
most
so.
followed.
No, I think he's
But I
second,
know
second to
certainly.
Wizkid or thing. But yeah, he's up there.
I beg to differ, but anyways, that's a conversation for music.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, but then this story actually testifies to what consistency and self-improvement does. Because when I look at the story, the reference came from, or the referral rather, came from someone who used to know
Yes. From
that
way
this
back
is what you
school days.
love doing,
Yes.
in school. Now, that was like before 2020, before 2019. That was back then. And the person hits you up in 20. Now, I imagine if you had gone away from voiceover and said you weren't doing voiceover anymore, the moment,
Probably
even
wouldn't
if
have
you
gotten
wanted
it.
to fake it, yeah, even if you wanted to fake it, I still they do amo, you probably, you know, negotiate wrong. You don't even know what you're supposed to do. You
Exactly.
don't know how. So whatever we do, especially as voiceover artists, it's really important for us to be consistent, to keep improving ourselves and get better, take trainings and all of that. And shout out to the Voiceover Academy, because I know that Voiceover Academy is treating you guys well. You have like a
Absolutely.
formidable team, you, Femi, and all of that. And by the way, I was going to say something.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a coincidence you, Sarah Johnson, and Femi, you're uni
I
Lauren?
attended University of Lorraine.
Like, what's going on? What
Well,
am I?
well, I really don't even know. Funny thing is, we never. Okay, Sarah, I used to see in school, but we never spoke. Femi, I had never seen. Do you get? So
Yeah.
we actually just connected. We all connected on the platform of the Voiceover Academy. So it's just
Wow.
one of those things. It's just one of those beautiful coincidences.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about another big deal that happened last year. I'm not so certain, maybe it's 2 years in a row now, and
Mhm.
that's your involvement in the SOVAS Awards,
Oh,
Society of Voice Arts Awards. And
yes.
and that's a big deal, really. I mean, this is the Grammys of the voiceover industry globally. That's
Yes,
how
it
we
is.
say it.
Absolutely.
And they decided to have African entries or, categories. And then a couple of Nigerians and Africans, got to become jurors, which included you. Tell me about
Absolutely.
how that happened and the feeling. Like, how do you feel being a juror? And what was the process like?
It's it's absolutely humbling. Absolutely humbling to be able to serve at that level. Forever humbled by the process. Must also mention that it would not have been possible without the, what's the word, the drive and the passion that Sheon Shobo, who's the founder of Voiceover Academy, has to see that African talents take their place in global space, right? So he's been aggressive about that, pushing that global vision, taking Nigeria to the world, and so he happens to be the Nigerian ambassador for SOVAS, and there was a call actually. There was a call for jurors on the SOVAS website, and I applied. I applied to be a juror, right, to serve as a juror. And of course, for something of that magnitude and that level, you need certain people that will testify to your professionalism and your expertise at that level. And thankfully, I had people like Shem Shibo who was there to, you know, uh, stand in the gap for people like
Yeah.
us. And, when the email came, I was humbled, really humbled.
Mm.
I'm still very grateful. For two
Yeah.
years now, I've been judging on the Service
Yeah.
Awards. It's been humbling. It's been an inspiring
Mm-hmm.
experience, having to judge entries of people all over the world and,
Yeah.
seeing people do stuff. Excellent, excellent work at such level. In fact, sometimes to judge a certain kind of work, you just really think to yourself that even I don't think I'm at this level. But then it's a really
Yeah.
humbling experience. It's a very humbling experience. It's very eye-opening. Allows you to understand the eye through which the
Yeah.
global standard, what is generally
Yeah.
applicable, you get. And it also helps you in your own process, even as a voice artist, so that when you release anything, you know what's required globally, such that when you're
Yeah.
releasing projects, you're not releasing anything that's subpar. So it's been
Mm.
a huge privilege. I must say it's been a huge privilege. I'm
Mm.
grateful.
I'm happy about that. All you said is going to lead me to just to share something I'm grateful about, and which is the fact that I am happy that we have these generation of voice actors who are audacious,
Yeah.
whichever one, are passionate about voiceovers, and
Yes.
we are ready to give it all it takes. Shout out to the generations before us, and we've seen what they were able to do. Thanks to them, we have organizations or associations like AVOA and some other things that they've done in the past to lay the foundation. And I'm happy because this generation, I see people like you, Sarah, and every other person doing one thing or the other. And I know that the voiceover industry is in safe hands and it's going to move on to the next, to the next, to the next level. And the reason why it's important for us to, have that solidarity and have that push and drive and encourage one another is because there are myriads of challenges with
True.
the voiceover industry in Africa, particularly in Nigeria. And that leads me to my next question, Wale. Um,
Yes, sir.
can you tell me of the most challenging experience being a voiceover artist? What has been the most difficult time for you, or that particular scenario? What has been the most challenging thing you've had to go through being a voiceover artist?
Well, one of the biggest challenges that the voiceover industry, particularly in Nigeria, faces is the conversation of value, right? So a lot of voiceover artists are not valued. And that's because
Mm,
for so long, we've had people who would do it. Well, maybe I think it's also a result of the economy in Nigeria. Our economy is blessed, to say the least. You get, and to follow, not to say otherwise. So maybe because of the situation of the economy, you have people that are willing to take anything and everything that will come to them. Some good enough talents that will take just anything and are not thinking professionally. They're not thinking of legacy. It really does affect people like us, do you get, who have the knowledge and who are willing to stand for the value that we're bringing to the table. And you have people just undermine you, say some very nasty things to you and make you just demean your work, really. They make it seem like it's just to voice. Is it not just a voice? Is it not? You hear some really nasty things. So the topic of value has been a huge problem. Having to stand for your value, demand your value, and actually get paid the value for your work. It's been a huge challenge in the voiceover industry, but thankfully, we have a lot of people, you inclusive, which I'm very grateful for, that are equipping voice talents, both existing and those that are coming, with knowledge, a bank of knowledge that would even outlive us,
Yeah.
about where they could find resources to arm themselves, so that we can
Yeah.
have less and less of people who are receiving next to nothing for something they should
Yeah.
be getting paid their actual work for. Do you get? So
Mm.
I really want to applaud you for the work that you're doing. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you too. And thanks to everybody. I feel like the ecosystem is positive
Yes.
and it's allowing us to cooperate, work hand in hand. We have organizations and associations that are springing forth. We also have the voiceover workshop as well as
Yes.
the voiceover academy, and we're all doing what we can to, educate people about the reality and that this is one of the things that gave birth to Voiceverse
Everything
NG
voiceovers and
and Everything
voiceovers.
Voiceovers
Yeah.
podcast. It's all to help the industry move to the next phase. So in line of that, what are the developments that you are willing to see in coming years for the voiceover industry here?
Well, absolutely. I'm looking forward to a time where voiceover artists in Nigeria will be adequately
Mm,
represented, not just in Nigeria, but globally. And slowly we're seeing that happen. We're now seeing, like the recent project that was released, the Disney Waju project. We had people,
yeah,
authentic Nigerian voices, not makeover voices,
authentic.
because those things irritate my soul when I hear
Yeah,
Nigerian accents that are not actually Nigerian. Do you get? So now
yeah,
we're actually seeing Nigerian representations on global levels. Do you get? So I long for a time where things like that become a norm. You have more Nigerian authentic voices taking the global stage.
mm,
Having that adequate representation all over Nigeria. We have bodies, we have lawyers, entertainment lawyers who are willing to take up voiceover artists. We should have a section where, lawyers, strictly voiceover lawyers under entertainment that would actually
yeah.
plead our cause. I look forward to things like that happening in Nigeria and then all over the world. It's something I'm really hoping to see happen. I'm very passionate about seeing that happen, and
It's
I'm willing to contribute in any way that I can.
yeah. I believe very strongly that it's gonna come. It's here
It's
already,
here already. Yeah.
and I'll just say that people, voiceover artists here, we just have to prepare for the opportunities.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, they have to meet us prepared. Imagine a gig coming and you don't even have a recording facility
Yes.
or the recording facilities are not good enough. So we need to prepare ourselves and not just by voiceovers, because a lot of times we think it's just getting better at voiceovers that makes the preparation. No, it's much more than that,
Yes.
business
Yes,
wise,
you have to get business
technical
savvy.
wise.
True.
Exactly. So these are the things. All right, Wale. It's been a long conversation, but a very, very interesting one. I've enjoyed speaking with you,
Same
and my
here, man.
eyes are open. I would like you to, drop one or two advice for people who are just starting. But this time around, I want you to take it as though you are advising the Wale Bams that wanted to, that 20
Wale
period,
Bams.
2018,
Yes.
2019. Yeah.
Yes.
Looking at from hindsight now, what are the things you tell yourself?
Well, 2019 Wale Bams, I'll tell him to not just be excited about his talent, but get the know-how, the business know-how side of things. Establish yourself in a way that communicates your value differently. In today's world, it takes more than talent to sustain your creative endeavors so that you will not just be forgotten. You'll be able to create a structure that would outlast you. All right. So don't just be a talent-centric voiceover artist that just wants to jump from gig to gig. Think legacy, right? Think of things that will not just benefit you in the short term. Think of things that will benefit you long term. You know, think collaborations. That's one of the things I'm very grateful for. You know, very early in my career, I learned the power of collaborations and how it helps you achieve way more, gives you greater reach, helps you reach a larger audience, and you know, reach a lot of more people faster. Collaborate with people, right? Collaborate more with people from the onset if you want to go farther, and you want to reach more people. Yeah, I think that would be my advice to any young person, the young Wale Bams,
The young
2019.
Wale Bams.
Oh,
All right. On that note, I'd like to say thank you, Mr. Bams.
thank you so
And
much. So,
yeah, there's something you're doing. Chats with
Bams
how
with
do you
Bams.
say it?
Yes. Bams with
Bants with
Bams.
chat.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm
Bams
going to
with
give you the
Bams.
floor to just talk about it, and then you tell us how people will want to reach out to you as well, how
Sure,
they can do
sure.
that, and then
All
we
right. So,
we end it on that note.
Bants with Bams is basically short form content. I figured that I had been overthinking the content thing. And as another thing I would like to say to voiceover talents is that a lot of times we tend to, because we do voiceovers, we tend to only post voiceover related things on our pages, forgetting that it was nice for people to actually see the human side of us. It humanizes us to not just the world, even our clients. Do you get? So a
Yeah,
client could
yeah,
actually pick you for a gig just because they like how the human side of you speaks to them. Do you get? So
yeah,
for me, Bands with Bams was to help me establish three things. Number one, that you don't have to overthink content in today's world. Just the minute you have an idea, just act on it. Number two was to inspire people and then to connect better with my audience, right? To connect better with my audience, you know, so people could see the more human side of me as to the Wale Bams that they only hear doing all these grand voiceovers. They actually see Wale Bams day to day life, you know, in his day to day struggles or some of the
yeah,
musings in my head, right? So that's what
yeah.
Bams with Bams is about. So follow me on on Instagram at Wale Bams, double underscore, on Twitter at Wale Bams underscore underscore. Sorry, the double underscore might stress you a little bit, but I promise you there's only one Wale Bams. Yeah, you
Yeah,
checked
there
it.
is.
Yeah, so follow me there. Let's connect with me, reach out to me for whatever projects you might have. I'm more than happy to work with you. And thank you so much, Steve. I must say, I really admired your work. I have listened to a number of your podcasts and I'm grateful for you. I'm thankful for you, the fact that you had this drive and you've acted on it and you continue to act on it. It's, I would say you're a huge blessing to the voiceover space. Posterity will be grateful for you and we thank you. We appreciate you. We love you. All right. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, I
You're
smile
welcome.
a lot that I don't even know when I'm blushing and when I'm
Uh,
just smiling.
yeah, yeah. It's
Oh,
important that you give
yeah.
you your flowers. I really must say
Uh,
that you do great work. Well done.
thank you so much. Well, it's been a very nice podcast,
Yeah, it's
and we
been my
should do
pleasure.
this some other time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Okay. All right.
Anytime.
So
All
thank you
right.
so much for taking your time, and we see
Absolutely.
you some other
Anytime.
time.
All right, my
All
bro.
right, guys. See you guys in the next episode of the Everything Voiceovers podcast, and it promises to be another amazing conversation. So stick around and follow the podcast on Instagram at Everything Voiceovers. Check us out on YouTube at Everything Voiceovers. Drop a comment, drop a like, and also ensure on our listening platform as well to follow us. We'll truly appreciate that. I remain Tcode, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.